By the middle of August 1944, the Battle of Normandy was decided by all means and purposes. The German field army was decimated, encircled, and almost destroyed. The escape of a large part of these forces is well documented. Lesser well known is the escape of the German garrison army along the Channel coast, the 15th Army. This army had been waiting in vain for a cross-channel invasion near Calais, while being stripped of its units to bolster the front line in Normandy. By the end of August, the bulk of the army had been moved south of the River Somme in an effort to build up a front line along the Seine River. The Allies were however on the march, and by August 26 they had crossed the river at 3 locations. The crossing of the Seine enlarged the scope of Allied operations far beyond Normandy. On the 26th of August, the British General Bernhard Montgomery had already outlined his plan in his Directive M520 quote, to destroy all enemy forces in the Pas de Calais and Flanders and to capture Antwerp. His plan was a virtual death sentence for the German 15th Army, which was responsible for this sector. Montgomery had reason enough to clear out the French coastline, because for over a month southern England had been ceaselessly bombarded by German rockets launched from the French coastline. The capture of the harbours along the Channel coast would also alleviate the Allied supply problems, because they still largely depended on the artificial harbours in Normandy. Although the German 15th Army largely consisted of second- and even third-class troops, it was one of the 2 large bodies of combat-capable German forces left in France. The other being the German 19th Army, which was battling the advancing Allied forces in southern France. It was essential for the Germans to save these troops from destruction if they wished to continue the war in the autumn of 1944. The problem was that these troops depended on muscle power for transport. In other words, the divisions moved as quick as their soldiers could walk and their horses could draw their heavy equipment. The Allied forces, on the other hand, were fully motorized. Moreover, the Allies had an unassailable intelligence advantage. Not only could they spot any German troop movement due to their air supremacy, but they also tapped directly into German communications because they had cracked the German coding of messages via the Enigma machine. Despite having the advantages of speed, firepower, and foresight, Montgomery would fail to destroy the German 15th Army in the coming weeks. The first missed opportunity came in the end of August. On August 29 the British unleashed Operation Supercharge 2, which was a planned breakthrough of 2 armoured divisions from the Vernon bridgehead and a subsequent crossing of the Somme, the last substantial water barrier before entering Belgium. The operation was a success because the British armoured forces only faced German infantry. On August 31 the advancing British tanks entered Amiens, and this offered several options. The first option was to go west along the Somme River and cut off the bulk of the German 15th Army. The second option was to go north to prevent the Germans from setting up a new front line in Belgium. Montgomery chose for the second option, and this gave the German 15th Army a second lease on life. The second opportunity to destroy the German 15th Army would present itself 2 days later. The British armoured columns had advanced north, and at that stage they again had to choose between going to the coast and finish off the German retreating forces or going inland towards the Belgian capital of Brussels. This city was liberated the very next day, and Montgomery totally lost focus of his primary mission: clear the Channel coast and liberate the port of Antwerp. In his Directive M523 on September 3, he directed the main force of his army to the east into Germany, aiming at the Ruhr industrial area. In order to support this thrust, he proposed Operation Comet, the precursor of Operation Market Garden. His left flank was however stretched between the Somme estuary and Ghent. The Canadian First Army was ordered to deal with the unglamorous task of clearing this flank with its meagre forces. To his credit, Montgomery's forces liberated the port of Antwerp on September 4, but the importance of clearing the Scheldt estuary to make the port actually accessible to shipping was lost on Montgomery. His forces did not bother to push north and cut off the rail link which enabled the German supply to their forces around the estuary. Moreover, such a push would have seriously impeded the escape of the 15th Army. This army was still on the move in Flanders and cut off from an escape over land. The crossing of the Scheldt was basically its only escape route left, because an evacuation over the high seas would have been time-consuming and extremely dangerous in the light of the Allied sea and air dominance. When the British resumed their advance, their two available armoured divisions went east, towards the Ruhr area. The American General Eisenhower, which had become Montgomery's superior, reminded him of his primary mission the very next day, quote, "While we are advancing, we will be opening the ports of Le Havre and Antwerp, which are essential to sustain a powerful thrust deep into Germany." Even Montgomery's superior, Alan Brooke, the chief of the Imperial General Staff, suggested an airborne operation on the island of Walcheren on the north bank of the Scheldt estuary. This island was at that stage stripped of its garrison and would have been ripe for the picking. The capture of the island would have prevented the escape of the German 15th Army altogether, because this would have effectively ruled out an evacuation over the high seas towards Holland. Montgomery's eyes were however fixed on advancing inland towards Germany. On September 10, Montgomery got the green light from Eisenhower for Operation Market Garden. Montgomery's focus was on crossing the Rhine at Arnhem. The Channel coast and the Scheldt had become a sideshow for him. That very same day the Germans started to pull out their first divisions for the crossing of the Scheldt estuary for evacuation to the Dutch mainland and bolster the front along the Albert Canal. By the time Market Garden kicked off, the Germans had crossed 3 divisions and the rest followed suit. These divisions were attacking Montgomery's supply lines to Arnhem, which was one of the main reasons for the breakdown of Operation Market Garden. By mid-October, Montgomery had to give up his plans to move into Germany in the autumn of 1944, because he had to remove the threat of the 15th Army on his western flank. The German 15th Army managed to escape Montgomery once more when he failed to crush it south of the Meuse during Operation Pheasant, late October 1944. In hindsight, the failed opportunities to destroy the German 15th Army would come to haunt Montgomery and would contribute to the defeat of Operation Market Garden. The first 2 opportunities were excusable because of a focus on Antwerp, but after the liberation of Brussels, Montgomery basically lost his focus and he became obsessed with a drive into Germany. Precious months were lost in clearing the Scheldt estuary of the German troops, which were allowed to escape from France and Belgium. In any case, Montgomery's oversight is a lasting blot on his reputation. It allowed the Germans to recover from their defeat in France by denying the Allies the much-needed supplies via Antwerp, and they used their escaped forces to thwart the Allied main effort in September 1944. Let me know in the comment section whether you agree with my analysis. If you like my content, please like, share and subscribe. Last but not least, we would like to draw your attention on the book The Struggle for the Scheldt, which came out recently. It analyzes the Battle of the Scheldt from the beginning of September until its aftermath well into 1945.